recording on the computer. And let's see what happens when I do all this. I'll hit all these buttons.
You're going to blow up the internet.
Yeah. Oh, I got to share my screen. See, I missed a button, Randy.
Uh-oh.
Now you got me?
I do.
Cool. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Teddy or Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is Kelly Sain. You're going to get to know a little bit more about Kelly in a few minutes. Before we get started, I want to thank the Elder Law Firm for being our sponsor to the show. Elder Law Firm is in Greensboro, North Carolina. They're committed to helping you help the people that you care about with their estate planning, their elder care planning. Reach out to the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, elderlawfirm.com. Their phone number is 336-396-4551. And it's important that you let them know that Randy told you to call them. So, Randy, you doing all right today, man?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a good night's rest and a new to you shirt. Thank you very much. So I'm ready to roll today. Kelly's going to be a great show and looking forward to that. But just real quick, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries, Northwest North Carolina, director for our professional center based in Winston. But, I have clients all over the country. But again, most of them are here in our backyard and certainly happy to help you. Or maybe if you know somebody that could use a little help with their search, that's what I do. And whether they're a recent grad or somebody closer to looking at that last step in their career, have them reach out. We work by appointment and we're free. So that's a good thing. But I get together with Teddy a couple of times each week, and Wednesday is our big live show. We've been doing this is what now, show 130?
Yeah.
Is that where we are on this thing? Wow.
I think I know people who didn't even stay married for 130 weeks.
Ooh. You're probably right. But hey, it's going to be fun. Going to have a good time today. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat box. So if you have comments or questions for, well, Teddy or Kelly, work them in there and I'll try to see if we can work them in the show. So all good on my end, Teddy. Ready to roll.
And Randy, I just want to let you know, dude, I think I've told you this before. If I see any of your clients in my backyard, we're going to have a conversation.
Oh,
Are they stealing? Most of our people are in my backyard. I'm like,
in my backyard. Yeah. They're stealing your vegetables and stuff. Who knows?
That's right.
We can grab your pumpkins.
No pumpkins this year. Maybe next year.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. So, hey, for anybody who's never met me, out of the 11,000 people in the show and in the audience today, I run a business called Burriss Consulting. We teach LinkedIn as a business tool. We teach Google Workspaces business tools. We do one-on-one coaching, corporate training. We, do seminars, public speaking all over the place now that public speaking is becoming a new thing again, or, maybe an old thing that's come new. But every week, Randy and I get together and we bring a special guest to bring conversations that are relevant to our community, to our business, to job seekers, all about, things that, just stories. The real value is bringing stories. Kelly Sain I met years ago when he used to hang out in Winston-Salem. He used to work for a big brand called BB&T, now referred to as Truist. Kelly's the owner today of Woodplay at the Carolinas, original location in Raleigh, North Carolina, new location last year in Charlotte. And Kelly's got an interesting story that we're going to talk about. But before I do, Kelly, introduce yourself a little bit more to our audience, please.
Yeah, well, thank you, Teddy. And great to reconnect with you. And I remember fondly our times in Winston-Salem, serving the March of Dimes at the time. So that was a great time. But yeah, again, Kelly Sain, my family and I, bought Woodplay the Carolinas in 2019. And we have locations here in Raleigh and Charlotte. My wife, Colleen, is in the real estate business here in Raleigh. And we got 3 kids. Actually, our oldest just turned 21 yesterday. So she's probably not awake yet. But
this 21, Kelly, at 21, do they move off payroll yet or not?
Not quite. Not quite. But,
almost.
She's a junior in Chapel Hill, so we're really proud of her, and she's doing really well there. And then we have an 8 and a 5-year-old, and so my life, my wife says that having kids of all ages, keeps me keeps me young, but I tend to think it keeps me working more than anything. But
I think
yeah,
you're right.
but excited to be on the show today.
Yeah, real cool. Hey, one of the things that Randy and I reach out to try to do on a regular basis is to give people different ideas, because you don't need to keep a job. You just need to figure out a way to make money, you know, and it doesn't have to be a job. And it may feel like a job if you're doing it the wrong way, but you and I talked a little bit about what you're doing now, and it's not really a job to you. But it comes with a lot of things that are responsible. 22 years at BB&T, dude. I wonder how many other BB&T / Truist people have been there for that long. Is that a normal thing?
Well, honestly, you know, yeah, I was a BB&T lifer. You know, there's a lot of people that were there for a long time. I think, you know, BB&T was a great organization. And, you know, we were always kind of the underdog in the banking industry. There was a lot of bigger banks, and we kind of started, when I started with the bank in 1998, we were maybe 25 billion in size, only in really North Carolina. So obviously over that 22 years, we grew into a much larger organization. But yeah, you know, halfway through that career, I thought I would be there forever. But then things changed. So and here I am today. So
yeah, I get it. And you started with BB&T a year after I started being a client at BB&T. It was 1997. I moved down here and walked into my local branch in Winston-Salem and said, "Hey, I got $6. I need to put it somewhere."
Hey, Teddy, I just got to thinking, I moved here and Kelly, I moved here in June of 2000. And I worked for a company called KMC Telecom at the time, and they had offices in the green glass building, the BB&T. So you could ride the elevator, and you never know who he's going to be in the elevator with, kind of thing. Yeah. But small world. So yeah, right around that same time, I moved to the area too. And with now, were you working out of corporate, or they have you one of the branches to get started, or what? Yeah.
Yes, I went through their management development program, and I started managing a branch in King, North Carolina, just north of Winston. And then I actually moved to that green building, and I opened up a branch in that building because at the time, as they were bringing in banks to recruit, you know, to buy, they wanted to see kind of what the branch environment looked like. So we opened that branch up. And then I moved to West Virginia for a while, about 4 or 5 years. I came back to Winston, over to High Point for a while. Then I moved to Cary. I made quite a few stops along my journey of 22 years, but met a lot of great folks and a lot of great clients along the way.
Good deal.
So the business changed. BB&T grew beyond, I mean, great business model, good people, good organization, but they became something that really wasn't where you wanted to be. Am I saying that anywhere near right?
Yeah, you know, I think in the banking industry, it's either grow or get acquired, right? I mean, you constantly are having to decide which side of the fence you want to be on. And, you know, as the organization got larger, it just became like any large organization, you know, more red tape, you know, less ability to frankly do the things that I enjoyed most. And it became less personal for me, at least. And I really enjoyed, you know, the community bank style of doing business more so than the larger corporate, you know, type environment. And so as it changed, you know, I started feeling, you know, not as good about what I was doing, and which was impacting, you know, me. And I'm a competitive guy by nature. And so I always wanted to do the best. You know, I had done really well in my career. I was, you know, in a great spot, but I just wasn't real happy all the time.
Yeah. And that is not just an internal thing. I mean, you and I talked about the changes that you went through and I went through. That impacts your job and your family.
Yeah, it's hard to turn things on and off when you transition from work to home. And, my wife would say, she could, some days when I walked in, she could see it on my face. I didn't really have to say anything. And that over time just, it wasn't really fair to my family. And over time, I just didn't enjoy, what I was doing every day. And, I was like, man, as much as I work, I want to be happy at the same time. And so, go ahead.
No, I'm with you. And you use the word nudge with me when you said, you had a supportive wife who was nudging you to make a decision about, where you and the family were going in business. And so let's go back a step. Let's talk about something. I listened to a podcast called Masters of Scale. Reid Hoffman, one of the founders of LinkedIn, put together this podcast. And Randy, they've been doing it longer than we have, man.
Really?
I mean,
Right.
And they've got some really, really cool conversations. Every morning I listen to it on my walk. And one of the things that they talk about was climbing the ladder. One of the guys, I can't remember who it was, and somebody from Ford, talking about climbing the ladder. And the conversation, not unlike what Kelly and I talked about, this whole thing about work-life balance and happiness and climbing that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about, why you made this decision in the context of, we touched on it, work-life balance and happiness and that ladder.
Yeah, well, I mentioned just briefly before that in my career, I moved to multiple states, different markets, never really getting a lot of roots in any one particular market, because again, as you're kind of moving up, that requires you to kind of move around, frankly, if you want to move up. And so I was okay with doing that early in my career, and it helped position me, into what I was ultimately doing, which, I don't regret. But then you get to a certain point and it's like, okay, well, for me to really take the next step, I got to make a major move and go where that maybe I don't want to. Or I just got to be content and keep my nose down and grind it out until I get to the point where I can just step away totally. And so the work-life balance is a challenge, because you got to perform at a high level to stay good in your job. And that impacts your family life too. You have less flexibility when it relates to going to see the kids' sports game, or taking them to school, or picking them up from school. It's people always joke about banker hours, but they're not 9 to 5. It's 24/7 almost. So,
and you got what, three children? So I mean, you've got different ages, and they're all involved with different activities, and a lot on your plate.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to the point where I was in my early 40s at the time, I guess, and I felt like, well, I'm at the age now where I can either grind it out to retirement and stay here, and or I can do something different. And I kind of thought about it as, I was kind of at halftime of my career. And I had to decide what I was going to do in the third and fourth quarter. And so I started looking at different businesses. I always had a dream to own a business. And so, we looked at a bunch of things. We actually made an offer on one company that we kind of backed off of after our due diligence. And then this company came around, and it just seemed like the perfect fit, for our family. So, so it was good.
I'd imagine that some of those conversations, as you were considering this halftime play, where do I do third and fourth quarter? Some of those conversations were probably not with businesses per se, but people that you've met along the way, and some of their ideas and their experiences. Can you talk a little bit about how that played in your decision making?
It's funny. My situation may have been a little bit different. Most of my dialogue about what am I going to do was really just between me and my wife. Okay. Because and maybe my brothers, but because I was in the role I was in, I didn't really want to put out there that I was considering maybe doing something different. I didn't really have that network that I could just pick up the phone and call and say, what would you do? So a lot of conversation, a lot of prayers, lots of what's going to be best for our family, because compensation wise, career wise, retirement package wise, I mean, I was in a really good spot, and walking away from that, that's the nudge that I refer to, is walking away from all of that. I needed a big nudge. And my wife was there and supportive, and that's what eventually got me over the hump, because as a banker, I'm pretty conservative in general. I think they wire that into you over time, but I needed that nudge for sure.
Hey, I just thought I'd throw in here. Maybe you're going to cover this a little bit later on too. I'm always a why kind of guy. I ask the why question a lot. I always think about motivation and such. And you said that for, I guess, a variety of reasons, this business made great sense for you.
Yeah.
What was the why behind that? Why this versus something else? What was it about this one in particular that said, this is where I need to be?
Great question. So,
hey, Kelly,
yeah.
Before you go too deep into that, tell us what Woodplay is.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So Woodplay of the Carolinas is a residential kind of outdoor playground company, really. I mean, our primary products that we sell are wooden cedar play sets, and then we also sell spring-free trampolines, and we sell Gorilla in-ground basketball goals. So basically anything that you can put in your yard to have fun with your kids, that's what we do. So so we like to say we put smiles on children's faces a lot. So basically, kind of back to your question, when we first started looking at companies, I was looking for something that would complement my wife's business. She's her mother and her brother have been in real estate for 30 years in Raleigh. And so they have a huge network of customers over those years. And so I was looking at things like, handyman businesses, outdoor lawn equipment, anything that would complement somebody that owned a home. And we just happened to run across this company, and I mean, both of us, we just looked at each other and we were like, this is it. This is the perfect thing for our family, because at the time we had, young kids. I have a pretty extensive sports background, and so the basketball thing really appealed to me, and it just felt fun, frankly. And, looking back on it now, it's absolutely fun. I mean, we have a great time. We enjoy, seeing the faces of children when we're finished installing their play sets. And it's just a lot of fun to come to work every day. So a lot more fun than being a banker.
I get that. Absolutely. And by the way, I see it. I follow you on social media, dude. And I've seen the transition in the business you're doing. And I think I've said this to you before. It looks like you were having a freaking blast.
Yeah.
Now but that being said, Kelly, it don't come at just sitting on your laurels. By the way, what the heck is a laurel?
Resting on your laurels. Is that what it is? Resting.
Yeah. You got to put some,
get off your butt over there.
It takes work.
It does. And I've never really shied away from work. I've always, tried to be one of the hardest working folks on the team. And so that didn't really scare me, but it is a different environment for sure. Let me think. Wait, no, we've not had an all-day meeting to talk about nothing since I've owned the company. Nor have we had hours of conference calls that I've sat on. But no, kidding aside, it's as an owner of a small business, you obviously wear a lot of hats. And in my former role, I was a leader of a team, and so I hired people, I coached people. I was the complaint department if somebody had an issue. So my prior role really, I felt like prepared me, for owning my own business, and from helping other business owners navigate the challenges that they had. I learned a lot in my prior roles. So that really, I felt like, set me up, for good success here. But you're right. I mean, if my computer goes down, there is no IT department to call. So I handle, obviously everything in the business, and even going out and installing the sets. I enjoy that more than anything, to get outside and do that as well. So
I think you and I were joking the other day about you were having to play cleaner in the business as well, cleaning up.
yeah, I was mopping the floor the other day. We had a big hurricane storm that came through the area, and we had we had some water, and so I was, I'm not opposed to doing that. I'll do, whatever I need to do to get things the way they need to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, we talked a little bit about financial risk, and I get it. Everybody's situation is different, and leaving 22 years at BB&T and starting your own business may be different for someone who's 5 years into the business. But you got to think through that financial risk thing when you you walk away from sort of kind of guaranteed income, sort of kind of guaranteed retirement. Talk a little bit about how you thought about that change, financial change for your business.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because my wife and I, she obviously works, and I worked, and our income supported our lifestyle and what we wanted in life. And so for me to just wake up one day and say that I want to give all that away, that's for a conservative type person, that's the head scratcher there. It's so one of the important things for us, at least when we were evaluating owning our own business, was whether we would buy an existing business or whether we would start up a business. And for me, it was a very easy decision early on that I needed to buy an existing business that had existing revenue, income, that I would not go from where I was at to zero. And so that certainly, as when we first started looking at businesses, we focused in on that. And we were in a position, fortunately, where we were financially able to consider that option. It's a much more expensive option, because you've got to, the price tags on existing businesses are a little higher than a startup per se. But that was very important in our journey.
I get it. I absolutely, yeah. And I shared with you earlier that I started and decided that for me, I wanted to start at zero. And because, by the way, there wasn't any business doing what I was doing in 2009, teaching social media as business tools. I'll never forget the first conversation I had with a business owner. He goes, "Man, I don't want to teach my people social media. Are you crazy?" And so, I had to start with from the ground floor and create something. And it's a different experience. I get it. But for me, in my world, it was way more fun, because I was starting doing something that nobody ever heard of before. And I had that wife that was nudging me along as well, Kelly. So, Randy?
Hey, yeah, I kind of wonder, because I started my own business at about age 42 or so. And again, kind of from the ground up, but it was something I had done years ago, and it's similar to what I do today, but it was, hanging my own shingle, and good times, bad times. And you look back and you live and learn and such. So my question, I guess, deals with the unexpected twists and turns. I mean, you knew it wasn't going to be rosy. You knew you're in for a long slog there to get this thing where you felt pretty comfortable with it. What are some hiccups you ran into, maybe you hadn't anticipated, and how'd you deal with those?
Yeah, great question. So
yeah,
we bought, speaking of timing, I guess, we bought the company in August of 2019, and this thing called COVID hit the following year. And I at first was really uneasy, about what to expect from that. because I saw a lot of business. I was still actually working at the bank at the time. We bought the business, and I didn't end up leaving the bank until later in 2020. But one of the things that we were really nervous, because I saw a lot of companies really struggle with COVID.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, frankly, that actually grew our business, because when they started shutting schools and parks and people were having to work from home, they needed an outlet for their kids to be able to get out of the house and to exercise and be active. And so our business really took off, during that time, and we weren't prepared for that. We weren't staffed to be able to grow as fast as we were able to grow. So the biggest challenge for me was probably just personnel, and that continues to always be probably one of the biggest challenges, is just finding the right people to be on your team. So because I my background was, I'm hiring bankers, they're going to 4-year colleges, and they're, coming out and they're ready to take on the world. And I was hiring more of like warehouse, type people. And that's a different hiring process, really. And so I've learned a lot through that process.
They're different. I get it. They're different people. I used to work for a company in Winston-Salem where we hired frontline laborers. We hired janitorial work staff who worked in the middle of the night. We hired landscapers who mowed grass and ran weed whackers. And then we hired security guards. And then I went to work in the technology industry, and I was hiring, 4-year degree, MBAs, who were doing strategy and consulting in the IT world. Way different group of people. But you know what? Working with the landscapers was just as much fun as working with these other group of people. They're just different people.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the biggest asset we have here is our people. And that is, because we bought this existing company, but then we opened up Charlotte last year from the ground up. Nobody knew who we were. And so going through that process was very educational. And, it's up and running, doing well, but, we certainly had hiccups with, trying to find vendors to do what we needed them to do to upfit our location, and hiring the right people. So that there were plenty of road bumps along the way. Fortunately, we had a good roadmap from this business to be able to implement down there. But yeah.
What have you run into in terms of the people side of this thing? I mean, have you found the magic formula for hiring folks? Or are you struggling just like you were before, or like the rest of us?
There is no magic pill. I've learned that. One thing I've learned is in the hiring process is to hire slow and to fire fast. And what I mean by that is it's okay if it takes a little bit longer to find that candidate that you just haven't run into yet. And if that means I just got to work a little harder or on the weekends or whatever, then that's the way it is. But you just got to trust your gut is what I've learned over time. Is like if you start seeing things, because in an interview, typically most people are gonna give you their best. They're gonna show up looking their best. Maybe not always, but they're gonna give you their best. It's never gonna get any better than that. Is the way I look at it. Yeah. And then early on, if you start seeing things that are not like that, then you got to ask yourself, is this a person I want representing my company?
Yeah. Big point, because most of your employees are customer facing.
Yes.
And so absolutely. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is Kelly Sain, owner of Woodplay NC out of Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina. Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy is sponsored by the Elder Law Firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. who's important to you and how you plan to honor your responsibilities to them is important to the elder law firm as well. So if you don't have those 7 documents in place and you don't know what that's all about, and you've got folks in your family that you feel some level of responsibility for their estate planning or elder care planning, reach out to the elder law firm again in Greensboro, North Carolina, elderlawfirm.com, 336-396-4551. Let them know that Randy Wooden, Wooden, said for you to call them and have a conversation with them.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, if you have comments or questions for Kelly, drop them in the chat box. So keep an eye on that. Try to work those in as we go. But yeah, they're best laid plans. You go in with your eyes open and open to also understanding that life's not going to be 100% smooth, and you have to pivot. It sounds like the whole COVID thing, where while it just wrecked a lot of businesses, sounds like in your case it was a plus for you. So being in the right spot at the right time, nothing wrong with that. Teddy, throw it back to you.
Yeah. Hey, let's just take Don's question.
All right.
Don asking Kelly, says, what kind of transition do you think is easier, corporate to small business, or take your small business skills and go work in a corporate setting? What do you think?
That's a great question. For me, at least, I think a lot of the things that I learned in my corporate job, from HR perspective, just from the sales tools, the discipline, the things like that, really helped me, I feel like, take the business that we bought and kind of form it into a better small business. I think if you were going from small business to corporate, you would be shocked. I mean, at just the red tape, the time it takes to make a decision, the slow to respond to type things. It's just a different environment, and the environment today maybe looks different because when I was in corporate, we were, you showed up every day, you're wearing a suit and tie. I mean, it was very official. Today it's a little more relaxed. I think they've changed the dress code. You can work from home some. It's a different environment, but I think if you're going from small business up, it would be a culture shock.
I can see that. Teddy, I've got a comment. By the way, Mike, thank you for your compliment on the shirt. You'll notice that Teddy didn't pay me any compliments on the shirt. He just brushed it off. So yeah, I'm quite well attired today, my friends. Thank you very much. Just
from the shirt up.
Yeah, this is a family show, so we're not going to go there. But Mike did have a question, and it was this. He said, what is your take, Kelly, on folks who represent franchises that may help to try to match you with a certain franchise based on your wealth, based on your aversion to risk, based on whatever criteria you put out there? Did you deal with those folks? How did it work? What advice could you give to somebody like maybe Mike, who's thinking about kind of doing what you do? Let's just say.
That's a great question, because I did talk to a lot of folks that repped franchises. We looked at several actually, and I think that franchises are a great thing because they kind of give you all the tools that you need to kind of get the business up and going. And on the downside, they also they have a lot of fees that they like to take back as well for some of that marketing and success that you have. And so I wasn't necessarily opposed to a franchise, but I felt like at the end of the day, buying an existing business, and this one just happened not to be a franchise business, but if I would have ran across an existing business that was a franchise, I would have not been opposed to it. That didn't apply in our situation, I guess.
Yeah. So it wasn't something that you consciously avoided or consciously sought out. It was just part of the landscape that you considered. And this one just seemed to check enough boxes for you that it made sense geographically and also I guess from an industry standpoint, you being a sports guy, this kind of meshes in with that whole outside and being active and all that. So good stuff. This is good conversation. Teddy, what you got now?
So
yeah,
I got that existing business versus startup. Do the research. Franchise didn't play out right for you. Because you said earlier, you said that you and your wife looked at this and you both said, "Oh my God, this is it." And that's a pretty powerful, situation to take. I mean, you can't pass that up. You gotta try hard to drill holes in it.
Yeah, funny story about that. Actually, my search for businesses actually was on Biz by Sell. It's a website that businesses can list their business for sale, or brokers list businesses for sale. And so when we came across this one, we were literally laying in bed at night, and I was flipping through, looking at different businesses, and I saw this one, and I looked at her and I said, "Look at this." And that's when we both were like, that's it. And so I called the very next morning the broker that had the business listed, and the business actually was already under contract. And this was like February of 2019. And so we entertained some other businesses and looked at some different things, made an offer on one other business, and that fell apart. And then come about June, flipping back through the website, looking for things, and it popped back up. And I was like, "So what happened?" Which my first instinct was, well, this ain't good. There's a red flag here. This guy didn't move. So I called the broker. He's like, "Yeah, the guy just got cold feet and backed out." And we literally jumped in, with both feet. And I think we closed on the business in August, but we've made the offer like July 4th. We were at the beach for July 4th, and we made the offer on July 4th. So we knew that we were so disappointed that we didn't have the chance the first time, that in our gut, we just knew that this was the right thing to do, because we both felt bad that we missed the opportunity the first time. So
now the visual I got, Kelly, is there's an app for that, and you're on an app and you're swiping left, and then you found one you swiped right on.
But yeah,
there is an app for that, I guarantee you. So talk a little bit about what excites you, and you touched on a little bit about the kids. Talk a little bit about your customers and the difference that how you deal with the customer, or not, I hate the word deal with, how you work with customers and serve customers in this small business versus the corporate business customer.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I started with the bank, we always prided ourselves on providing just excellent customer service. We called it the gold seal standard, I think is what they called it. And so, and that's really who I am. I mean, my DNA is that I'm a pleaser. I want to take care of people and help people. And that's the reason I got into banking to begin with. So that just became a real natural transition in this business. And that is our number one priority focus is customer service. Because, in our business, a lot of times families will come in here when they're kids. Some of them are still, pregnant, and they're looking at, buying these types of things for their yard. And so we want to try to make a client for life is what we talk about, because a lot of times the first thing they might purchase is the play set. And then as they get older, they'll come back and hopefully buy a trampoline or a basketball goal for us. So we really talk about, giving great customer service so that they want to come back to us. And I said, because without our customers, I mean, we don't exist. And so we really put a lot of focus on that. So when a customer comes in, our job is to really not sell anything. I don't even use the word sell really at all in my training with folks, because, our job is to listen, to ask questions, to understand what they're wanting and needing, and then be an advisor to them if maybe they thought one thing and based on our experience, we might suggest something different. So our goal is to listen, advise them, and our stuff sells itself. I don't know that anybody wakes up any morning and says, I'm going to go buy a play set. It's something they've thought about for their family. It's not an impulse purchase, really. It's something that they've thought about. And so most of the time when our customers come in, they've made the decision they want to buy something. So then it's our job to create that wow experience, give them good advice, because we do have competition. And so, we want to make sure that we're giving them a great customer experience.
Now, by the way, you learned that from BB&T, dude.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's BB&T. Again, I've been a client for 23 years. They've always, specifically in the early days, the whole story was about customer experience. And I don't know the word wow played a role in it, but a little bit different wow on a play set than it is wow on a great bank account, a great, banking relationship. But you didn't sell in those worlds. You served and you cared and you listened, and you took those experiences and those skills and you applied them into the, children's play area. So,
hey, I want to ask you too, in terms of customers. I mean, you talk a lot about what I'll call the residential market, but municipalities, setting up play areas, apartment complexes, that kind of a thing. Have you been able to branch out into other customer bases?
Great question. We do serve a lot of apartments, HOAs, churches. You get to a certain point though, like in the schools and parks and things like that, and it really requires more commercial grade equipment, metal play sets, things like that. There's certain standards that they require in those arenas. So we have primarily stuck to the residential side. In fact, one of the reasons this company was for sale is because the owners owned a commercial playground company. And that piece of their business was growing so fast and so quickly, and they really just didn't want to fool, frankly, with the residential side of the business. And that's why they decided just to kind of sell that off. So it's a totally different animal. But for those churches and apartments that may not be, their budget may not be big enough to buy $100,000, play set, but they've got, 5 to 10,000 that they could buy a set from us, then it makes a lot of sense. And so we do a lot of business with those different entities.
So Randy, do you have a play set outside your man cave?
The executive suite here. We're working on it. Hey, but I have and I don't want to go too deep into this topic, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I mean, everybody wants to sue everybody these days. Everybody's out to make a buck. The coffee's too hot. I fell and I hurt myself. So you're selling stuff like trampoline, swing sets. I mean, I'm sure you have insurance, but I mean, is this a litigious kind of
industry?
I would think it would be. There's a lot of hazards out there. People fall and get a boo-boo.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate up to this point. The Raleigh location, some of the installers that work for us have been doing this for 15 plus years, and so they have a lot of great experience. But it is certainly the possibility exists for things to happen, right? I mean, and so we try to be very careful with the installation process to make sure that everything is installed according to the manufacturer. And fortunately, we've not had any of those kind of incidents.
Good.
Come forward. It's but insurance companies are a little bit, trampolines are not their favorite thing in the world. Just like swimming pools and other things, where folks can come over and potentially, something could happen to them. But
Teddy bought he bought it at a yard sale, those lawn darts, right? And he said we're going to play catch. So he started throwing them at me, and that didn't go too well. So, but I'm glad to hear that.
And I had to throw them harder.
I had to duck quicker. But it was just it occurred to me, anytime there's a business out there, you want to do the right thing. So it sounds like you're installing it the way it needs to be done. And, you carry insurance just like you carry auto insurance. You never know. But when you need it, you're glad you have it. So I'm glad you haven't run into those issues, because that'll just take some of the, what I'll call the fun out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, somebody's hurt. And then there's that issue too. So I'm glad to hear that. So I just thought I'd throw that in there and throw it back to you now, Teddy.
So let's go back to the Amazon keeps wanting to tell me that they're here to deliver stuff, and I keep telling them to go away, and they ignore me.
Is it the lawn dart, the new lawn dart set?
New lawn darts. Kelly, let's go back to the top. You left a 22-year career with a really good organization that has been treating you well for a long time to start a small business. Go into your own small business. Bought one and you started doing it yourself. And you didn't do this big picture for the dollars. You did it big picture for that change in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. As I got, it's funny you say that's a great question, because I thought early in my career, happiness was the next thing I bought, the
next
boat,
big vacation,
the big house, the this, the that, the whatever. And the older I got, the more I realized that those are all great, and they're fun to have, but it comes at a cost. And the cost for me was just happiness, stress, being involved with my family. Now my kids come over here, they come to work with me, if they're out of school, they hang out during the day, we play together. I take my kids to school every day. I couldn't have done that and worked at the bank. So it's just a different lifestyle, and one that was an easy trade-off. Now, one thing about owning your own business though is, I was working really hard at the bank to make what I was making, and I work here just as hard, to make good money too. So, initially, it was a big drop, in compensation, but over time, my goal is to build that back and surpass, that. So, but the trade-off on just spending more time with the family and the flexibility that it provides is number one. The older I got, the more I realized that.
Time is a big deal. I mean, you can't buy time. And so, good to know.
I'll tell you, I'm with you on that time thing and family thing. I mean, I've been working hard to get to the point where I have way more time to spend with family, and I invest more time in every week with family, and it's not, I give that time, and I'm blessed to be able to give that. I do more than that I work. I've switched it all around. Of course, I'm a little bit older than both of you, but I've mixed it up now. So I spend more time with family than I do work. But here's another thing, another measure, Kelly. I wonder if you did this math. I have a brother-in-law, he worked on Capitol Hill, okay, downtown DC. And he and I were talking about, changing up our careers or even retirement. And I asked him, I said, dude, do you know how much money you spent on lunch, gas, and suits? Did that come into play with you?
Well, you don't see what I'm really wearing today. But
that ain't a suit, dude.
No, it ain't a suit. It's not a suit. Let's just say my dry cleaner wasn't real happy. I was spending a lot of money every week getting my suits dry cleaned, and going out to eat with the guys at the office, and now I typically bring my lunch and I wear shorts every day. So some of the guys that used to work for me have come by and they're like, "Wow, you look different." So
and you're smiling. You're smiling,
Yeah. So
quality of life thing, that's a big deal. And I work with a lot of job hunters, professionals that are in a job search, and especially as they hit 40 and up, and especially if once the kids are out of college age kind of thing, then for them the money issue, I mean the pulls on the money, college tuition, the mortgage is typically pretty far taken care of. It's more about fulfillment on the job quality of life,
Yeah.
balance, and feeling like you enjoy what you do versus you're doing it for the paycheck and only the paycheck.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a chat about that ladder, because you touched on it a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, and I actually wrote a story about this morning about climbing the corporate ladder. I mean, it's one thing to put all your energy in and, deal with all that chaos that comes with climbing that corporate ladder versus climbing the ladder that you create.
Yeah. Yeah. The nice thing about the end of that ladder is you get all the benefit. It's, I'm going to work hard wherever I'm working, but to know that, now I get all the benefit is pretty exciting. And, I get to give back, to our people here that work here in ways differently than I was able to do in the corporate world. I always hated, for several years there, they're like, well, our salary pool this year for increases is 1%. And, we gotta figure out how to divvy that up, to our top producers. and that means somebody's not going to get, anything. And, so, it's just a different environment. And, I like to give end of the year bonuses, and it's just a lot of fun. It's fun. And I get to make the decisions, and, sometimes the decision may not be the right one in hindsight.
Yeah.
So we just change. We do it differently the next time. And, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of responsibility, because I know I'm providing for families that need resources. And so it's, that's a little bit stressful at times, but it's fun. It's fun.
Teddy, do we have time to work in Don's point or
let's
question?
do Don's conversation real quick.
Yeah.
You want to cue it up?
Yeah, he says, Don said, hey, look, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and he said part of the overlooked part of family time is a chance for your spouse or your kids to observe you, to see you in action and how you respond to the daily life issues versus, like Ward Cleaver, and he takes his briefcase and he goes away, and they don't know what he does on the job. All they know is he comes home late and he's tired, right?
Yeah.
And see it in your face. So any observations about that and how you can almost be an example, maybe set that example to show your family about this is the me that you're not seeing if I went back to the bank.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's like I said before, I mean, my kids are in here all the time. And when they're in here, I'm showing them, what we're doing. We go back into the warehouse, and my 5-year-old loves to climb up on the forklift. I don't let him operate it, but but they'll come out there, and I give them jobs to do, and I'm hopefully teaching them things that hopefully will be valuable to them. I don't have this wish that one of them will end up taking over the business, but maybe a part of me does, right? I mean, it can be in the family, and they can continue on and provide for their family. But that is pretty cool. And my wife is, she's self-employed too, and so, they often go out with her when she shows houses, and it's just an education that you just don't get if they never see you at work. So it's a huge benefit, I feel like, and hopefully it gives them an appreciation for what they have, and we talk about that a lot too. Is, Daddy's at work, and y'all know what I'm doing here, so that we can go on that little trip or do whatever.
Yeah. By the way, for those that are younger than Teddy and me, Ward Cleaver was on Leave It to Beaver. Okay, that was, remember, hey, G Wally and all that stuff. Yeah. But that was the
what Ward Cleaver did, though, Randy?
No, I didn't. No.
I think he was a part of that whole what's it called, Breaking Bad thing.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
That was the business model, and you went off to work and you came back home, and now we're seeing a different side of you and reaching out to go for it. And that halfway point through your career, and not everybody has the nudge, the guts, the competitive spirit to be able to pull that off. And that doesn't make him a bad guy. I mean, it just means that maybe for them, that comfort of the daily hamster wheel is where they need to be. So it's not for everybody. I mean, you got to be a heck of a self-motivator every single day. You're basically unemployed.
Yeah.
You know, when you can get out of bed, same with Teddy. I get fat and happy. I'm collecting just kidding. But point being, it's not for everybody. That's where I'm going with this. And know thyself. And that's got to be a big component of this. And I don't know whether you undertook any kind of assessments or there was any outside influence that really gave you that extra confidence that, you've got that personality type that this is going to be a good thing for you. Can you speak to, I don't know, maybe did you, or can you speak to the value of those kinds of assessments?
Yeah. I mean, we were assessed for everything in the bank. You know, they wanted to know our personality type, you know, what our drive was, you know, so I've over my career, and I've been to many training sessions where they try to, you know, peek behind the curtain and really understand, you know, what makes you tick and all those things. And, you know, for me, it's just, I know that whatever I'm going to try to do, I'm going to give it my best, and I'm going to hopefully be successful. And, you know, thus far in my career, I mean, certainly there's been highs and lows, but for the most part, I've exceeded and done well. But you're right, it is not for everybody. Some people, the certainty of that paycheck is more important. I just figure worst case, if I did this and it didn't work out, I could just go back to banking if I wanted to, you know, but I just, when I look back, I haven't really looked back. People ask me all the time, do you miss banking? And I just kind of laugh and tell them that, no, not really. But
and nothing wrong with banking, but you found something else that lights you up.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the key point, is find what makes you happy and then do it, because life's too short. You know, at the end, you know, we're not promised tomorrow. And so you need to do what makes you happy and what enables you to be able to take care of your family and make a living. And you know, hopefully, you know, happiness, you know, can be part of all that in a big way.
I'm a little bit past the word hope. Hopefully, I think we got to strive to make that happen. I'm with you. So Kelly, good stuff, man. I'm happy for you. I love watching where you're going. I'm glad your Charlotte business is thriving for you as well. Thank you very much for stopping in here. One word of advice. You have one statement to close with that would make people think about themselves and their future.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people listening were in the same spot that I was, you know, on the fence. You know, what should I do? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And I would just say, just do it. I hate to use that cliche, but you know, looking back, it was the best thing that I ever did. And granted, I probably feel that way because we're successful and the business is doing well, but there's so many other things that I've benefited from, you know, the family time and all of that. It was a life changer. And I feel like put probably more years back on my life. So I would just say, just do it. And the worst case, you can always go back to doing what you were doing, you know.
The words you just said, life changer, are the key words there. Kelly, again, thanks a lot for showing up, buddy. Appreciate it. Randy, you got a quick story before we introduce our guest
and I've said,
week?
I said this before. I started my own thing, doing essentially what I do now for Goodwill, but as a self-employed guy. And I always said, I was about 42 at the time, and I said I didn't want to wake up at age 60 and wonder what if. No guarantee it was going to work out, but I learned a lot about what to do, what not to do, how to do it. I grew my career, and maybe that door closed as a self-employed guy, but then based on my work and my volunteerism, the Goodwill door opened up, getting now to do the same thing that I love doing, and now doing it for a company that is well respected and being able to benefit people. So for me, it's a great marriage, and I'm happy that I've gone down that road. Teddy, I'll throw it to you. We have a great show next week.
Yeah. Kelly, again, thanks a lot for being
Thanks,
here.
Kelly.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Good conversation. Next week, our special guest is Mayor Alan Joins. And for those who don't know who he is, he's the mayor of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I think he was mayor. He's been mayor of Winston-Salem for 22 or 23 years. Great guy. We are not going to have a conversation about politics. We are not going to have a conversation about the chaos of being mayor. We're going to have a conversation about why does Alan Joins want to keep being the mayor of Winston-Salem. We're going to peel back the layers, get to know a little bit more about who he is. Yeah, we'll touch on some of the things he's done and some of the things he wants to do. But join us next week, October the 12th.
12th,
Mayor Alan Joins on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, sponsored in part by the Elder Law Firm. We're grateful for them showing up and helping us out. Hey, everybody, have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kelly. All right. See you
Great.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.